All right, so let's start with the big story that we are tracking on WION at this hour. And this, of course, is to do with the war that is presently underway in the Gaza Strip. The United Nations General Assembly has again overwhelmingly voted for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in the Gaza Strip out of the 193 nations. This is how the voting went. 153 nations backed the call for an immediate ceasefire, and only about 10 nations voted against the ceasefire, while 23 nations abstained from voting. Now, refusing calls for a ceasefire, the Israeli envoy held aloft a placard with a telephone number and the name and image of Yahya Sinwar, the Hamas leader in the Gaza Strip. Now, Yahya Sinwar is a Hamas leader, and he had said that if anyone wants a real ceasefire, then it is the right address. Now, the Israeli army has released a video showing combat in northern Gaza. The video shows troops fighting and also encountering two militants virtually at point-blank range. So that's an image video that was put out by the Israeli Defense Forces. Meanwhile, Israel is also said to have deployed the SARS 6 class corvettes in the port of its southernmost city of Eilat. And this follows a series of attacks that have been launched by Yemen's Houthi rebels towards Israel and also against the Israeli-linked ships in the Red Sea. The Houthis have said that so long as Israel continues with its offensive in the Gaza Strip, they will literally block all means of communication for the Israelis in the Red Sea corridor. And amidst increased attacks, the Houthis have claimed responsibility for a missile strike on a Norwegian commercial tanker off the coast of Yemen in the Red Sea. On the other hand, the Israeli army has also released some videos to show its strikes in Lebanon and Syria. The IDF has said that its aircraft and tanks had struck a number of military posts and military infrastructure belonging to the Syrian army in the Syrian territory. Its fighter jets struck military infrastructure and a launch post belonging to the Hezbollah organization in the Lebanese territory. And amidst fears of a possible spillover, the Iranian foreign minister has now warned that if the war does not stop, the possibility of expansion of the scope of the war will increase. He's also warned that the United States will also bear the consequences.
War is not a solution. Israel and the United States will never be able to eliminate Hamas. Israel cannot free its prisoners through war.
Meanwhile, Israel has confirmed the death of two more hostages. The Israeli troops have said that they've recovered the bodies inside an underground infrastructure in a densely populated area in the Gaza Strip.
IDF special forces recovered the bodies of two Israeli hostages during a complex hostage rescue operation in Gaza. 27-year-old Eden Zecharia, who was taken hostage by Hamas from the Nova Music Festival, and 36-year-old Command Sergeant Major Ziv Dado, who was taken hostage while on active duty. Sadly, we did not reach them in time.
The calls are, of course, growing to bring all hostages back into Israel. The protesters are demanding Netanyahu to continue the negotiations for the release of the Israeli captives in Hamas's captivity.
There isn't any time. Our people, our families are there, alone, in the cold. We want them back home. There isn't any time. They're dying there. There isn't any time. Bring them home now.
Meanwhile, Israel is continuing with its southern Gaza offensive. The Israeli strikes have hit the Rafah border crossing in the past 24 hours, reportedly killing and also injuring several people, including women and children. And these are some of the scenes from Khan Yunis. Several victims had to be rushed to hospitals in the aftermath of the Israeli strikes. And areas in central Gaza have also come under heavy bombardment. A refugee camp in the area was hit by the Israeli strikes, and many people had to be rushed to hospitals. And our correspondent Jody Cohen has been tracking this story very closely for us and has sent us this report from Herzliya in Israel. Take a look.
So, Palestinian Authority Ambassador to the UN, Mansour, called the vote historic. The US Ambassador to the UN, Thomas Greenfield, she said that a ceasefire would be dangerous for Israel and also the Palestinians, who she said deserve a better future free from Hamas. Now, Israel's ambassador to the UN, Gilad Erdan, said that a ceasefire would mean survival for Hamas, which is committed to the annihilation of Israelis and Jews and has publicly said that it wants to carry out a 7th of October style massacre again. Now, remember, that's when Hamas tortured 1,200 people, mostly civilians, and kidnapped 240 back into Gaza. But this is a non-binding resolution. We know that US National Security Advisor Sullivan is going to be in Israel this week, and also Defense Secretary Austin is going to be visiting next week, and they're going to be discussing with Israel a timetable for moving the war from a high-intensity operation to lower-level operations.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.